Get great deals throughout the store at Safeway. Right now at Safeway, save on all your favorite brands and earn 4 times rewards points. Shop now for items like Head & Shoulders, Secret Deodorant, Olay Body Wash, Vicks NyQuil, Crest 3D Whitening Toothpaste, Oral-B Manual Toothpaste, and Crest Mouthwash, and earn 4 times rewards points with Safeway for you. Visit Safeway.com for full offer details and to find out more deals. Offer expires January 23rd. Restrictions apply. Promotions may vary.
This is a CNA podcast.
Rainforests are a defining feature of many parts of Southeast Asia, from the great green expanses of Borneo to Cambodia's misty Cardamom Mountains. These ancient landscapes support so much life. Over the past few decades, much of this region's rainforests have been lost. But as we start to better appreciate what they do for the planet, those trends have reversed. Southeast Asia is now leading global efforts to protect rainforests, which are critical as a tool to fight climate change. Welcome back to the Climate Conversations. I'm Jack Board, and in this special series, Asia's Great Climate Frontiers, I bring you stories of ecosystems at risk. If you haven't already, do find the first 4 episodes of the series wherever you get your podcasts. This week, I'm in southern Thailand. In a country where deforestation was once rife, I see firsthand the benefits communities can discover when nature is preserved rather than destroyed. This is Asia's Great Climate Frontiers. I'm on patrol with a group of rangers from the Forest Protection Unit of Khao Sok National Park. From afar, you could certainly mistake them for a military unit. The men, some experienced, some as young as 19, wear camouflage fatigues, they carry rifles and mean business. But their successes over recent years means they're more likely to be looking for elephants to monitor than poachers to catch. Today's patrol is shorter and the discoveries a bit more mundane. A plastic bottle here and there. Even these small things indicate human activity that will need to be recorded. The ranger's leader is Ponchai Yenjai. He's been doing this for 20 years, but his family has a much longer history in this rainforest.
My name is Ponchai Yenjai. I am a forest protection official and central patrolling official for Khao Sok National Park. I started working when I was 20 years old. I followed my father from when I was a child. We looked for things here and there. So I learned which spots had a lot of animals, which spots had resources such as fruit trees or seasonal plants that we can eat. It was knowledge passed from generation to generation. Originally, every family here had fathers who were working like poachers. They weren't actual poachers, but rather would search for food. We didn't have laws or a national park at the time. They naturally had to feed themselves by foraging from the forest, such as finding bamboo shoots, wildlife, or an area where they wanted to grow crops for the family. This is my home. If we don't take care of our home, then we can't hope for other people to take care of it too, right?
The rangers cover a huge area of the national park here in Surat Thani province. Their patrols can last as long as 14 days as they venture deep into the wilderness. Most of Khao Sok consists of virgin rainforest. It's dense and humid, part of an ancient rainforest system that's older than the Amazon. And it's loud. But over the years, Khao Sok has changed. In the 1980s, the construction of a hydroelectric dam project flooded 165 square kilometres of forest. The reservoir that was created is enormous, nearly a quarter the size of Singapore. Just 2 years earlier, the area had been decreed a national park, meaning no logging or mining was permitted. But Thailand needed electricity, and the dam project was made a priority. The flooding that resulted caused massive upheaval. Many animals drowned, and everyone living in villages in the area was forced out. Karun Pengjan, now 78 years old, resides on the outskirts of the national park. He remembers that time with sadness.
One day, the sub-district chief said there would be survey and a dam will be built. We needed to be prepared. We might not be able to live here in our old place. The villagers were wondering where we could go, and we were told that the houses would be moved and we would be given croplands as well. We lived there until the rumors turned into real life. Once they started drilling the tunnel, we were certain that this was serious. I say that we lost everything. Whoever has to leave the place they used to live, the bed they used to sleep, the house they used to stay in, what would they feel? We cannot find the words that describe it all.
Despite the lingering memories of life before the dam, today Khao Sok is a beacon for ecotourism in southern Thailand. International visitors are drawn to forest trekking and exploring the aquamarine waters and dramatic limestone peaks. The place has been labelled the Guilin of Thailand for its similarities to China's famous karst landscape. The influx of money to the area has been a catalyst for local behaviours to change as well. This is Thai Kwantong, the chief of Khao Sok National Park.
The direct benefit is that villagers now work as tour guides and lead tourists to different spots in the national park. 80% of the tour guides are from the local area. When former poachers saw that there were a lot of tourists coming, they switched from wildlife hunting to become tour guides and boat operators. They also open restaurants or shops. Now, this means they can earn a direct income and it isn't illegal. This makes people help with conservation of nature. Life here is a lot different than in the past. They've joined us and cooperate in taking care of the forests and wildlife. And this is why incidents of encroachment, destruction of resources, and poaching of wildlife is now zero.
After listening to Thai, I'm wondering how important ecotourism can be as a tool to promote forest protection in Thailand.
Ecotourism is one of a bundle or a portfolio of potential strategies that we can use to reward, to compensate, to incentivize local communities to, in a lot of cases, continue doing the good work that they've already been doing in terms of taking care of their forests and their natural resources.
That's Regan Pairot Mahakit, a senior program officer at RECOFT, an international not-for-profit assisting local communities to actively manage forests in Asia and the Pacific. She says ecotourism is just one of the tools in the kit.
People are confronted with difficult choices and trade-offs, and when you want to send grandma to the hospital and your kids to school, it takes money. And a lot of indigenous people and local communities that live in and around forests have long relied on subsistence type of economies that are not cash-based. So this puts them in a difficult position to try and acquire hard currency. And the forest has become the go-to place for that. If we can offer them alternative benefits, including direct payments or direct financing, I think it's essential in allowing them the same basic rights that anybody else would expect to be able to take care of their families and improve their own livelihoods. This can be through ecotourism. This can be through supporting local supply chains, for example, either timber, non-timber forest products. It can also be through new and emerging markets, both for carbon as well as for biodiversity. I see personally great promise and something really transformative as we start to see markets offering incentives and recognizing these really marginalized, historically impoverished groups for the absolutely vital role that they play in protecting the remaining shreds of ecosystems that we rely on as a global community for our survival.
Thailand's forests are on a more hopeful path, just like several of its ASEAN counterparts. The country recently joined an international coalition pledging support for a global goal to protect or conserve at least 30% of the planet's land and ocean by the end of the decade. Regan says it's a viable goal and a good one to target, given the critical role of rainforests in combating climate change.
So climate change is obviously a massive global threat, and it's particularly a threat in Southeast Asia where population densities are very high. High percentages of the most vulnerable countries to climate change are within this region. We're seeing a series of different climatic threats involving typhoons, storm surges, drought, heavy rainfall, flooding, wildfires as major phenomena throughout the entire region. The relationship with tropical and subtropical forests is obviously it will be affected by climate change, but also their vital role as carbon sinks. So they're one of the most high carbon sequestering forest types that exists. They're relatively more resilient in the face of climate change as opposed to, say, the dry deciduous forests in northern parts of these countries, which are much more subject to drought as well as wildfires. But I think they are no less essential as critical when it comes to climate change. Tropical forests are oftentimes the traditional ancestral domains and territories of a lot of indigenous people and local communities who are also some of the most vulnerable and marginalized communities. Therefore, the intersection between tropical rainforests and indigenous people and local communities makes them an absolutely essential geography for policymakers and for the global community to consider with regards to climate change and land use planning.
Are you looking for ways to make your money work harder for you? Or need tips on saving, investing, and making financial decisions? Join me, Andrea Heng, on Money Talks, CNA's top personal finance podcast. From investment basics to the FIRE movement and legacy planning, Money Talks looks at financial trends and stories that matter to you. Check out our complete playlist on the CNA app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us or subscribe for new episodes every Tuesday.
Back in the south, after a long day in the forest with the rangers, I'm happy to see the site of my accommodation. Anorak Community Lodge is on the edge of the national park. It's surrounded by jungle, but most of its grounds are quite different. It's full of palm oil trees. This land used to be a plantation, which is actually a pretty common sight in the area. It's an example of economic land use changes here, as locals sought ways to make a living. In years gone by, forest was turned into various types of concessions: palm oil, rubber, coffee, pineapples. At Anorak, things are turning back to nature though. The man who used to own this land is 48-year-old Natawut Chupet. He sold it to the current owners, but now works at the lodge. He takes visitors on hikes and is in charge of one of Anorak's programs to reforest this land. Slowly, the palm trees are being replaced by indigenous trees.
We took care of this land for around 70 or 80 years after migrating here since the generation of our ancestors. They grew rambutans and coffees, but it wasn't fruitful. So they planted palm oil trees instead. There's still palm oils now. Reforestation has started. In the next 10 years, it will definitely look like the forest in the old days. A lot of trees have been planted. In the future, I think that nature will be so abundant like in the past, and everybody will understand about conserving nature for the next generations. And if we can conserve more nature, tourism will be sustainable too.
It's not everywhere that you can find a healthy mix of rainforest protection and a lively local economy. Around Khao Sok, though, things seem to be on track. I can't help but worry about how mass tourism here could end up spoiling well-made plans, especially outside protected areas. If more locals, the ones who truly treasure this landscape, are empowered to shape the future of Khao Sok, hopefully that can be avoided, and everyone can still enjoy what is a special place. This has been Jack Board. Thank you for listening to this special episode of the Climate Conversations. The team behind this podcast are Crispina Robert, Jacqueline Chan, Sai Ye Win, Joanne Chan, and Tiffany Ung.